Hey, welcome everyone to another episode of the First Through the Storm podcast. We have rebranded, which I have been mentioning here the past probably about 7 or 8 weeks. So thank you for joining us today. Hey, today we're going to talk about ADHD wasn't my hurdle. It's it's been my biggest advantage with our guest Scott Proposki. So before we get started and I introduce Scott, I just want to say thank you to Emergo Academy, Dave and Susan Kenny. These guys are my coaches, and they're the ones that's real. Actually, they're the ones that trained me to be a crisis and recovery coach. If you guys are interested in becoming an international crisis recovery coach, or even just taking their course to help better your life, I highly suggest looking up Emergo. That's Emergo Academy.com. Dave and Susan Kenny are awesome. They're really, really good people. And one of the things I love about Dave and Susan Kenny, they're not one of those coaches that every time you call them, they charge you. They're somebody I can reach out to anytime, and they're always there, and they're always working on different things to help us as coaches, and they don't charge us anything, which I think is really cool. They have their initial charge, but they're there to help you become a better person and a better individual or a better coach. So again, check out Emergo Academy, Emergo Academy. So without further ado, Scott, thank you so much for taking time out of your holiday weekend to be with me today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, hey, Al, it's great to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, going through your bio, man, you've done a lot of things. You've been a professional photographer for Washington, D.C., right? You've done a lot of things with that as
Yeah.
well as the Discovery Channel. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's a slew of high corporate clients I had, including the White House in Washington, to Google, to Discovery Channel, to the HBO, and Miley Cyrus and Michael Jackson, and it was quite a career.
Wow. Wow. So, in your bio a little bit, you talked about loss and resilience. So just let our listeners know a little bit more about the history and what you meant by losing everything, because it sounds like you had a lot of stuff going on, and then we all know what happened in 2020, which that changed a lot of lives in a lot of different
Mhm.
ways.
Yeah, I mean, it's still, I mean, as we record in this, it's 2026, July 4th weekend, and the pandemic is real. It's a real thing, and there's a long-term effect to it for many different people. Um, And, this is why I'm on the show here to kind of, if you're listening to the show and you're like, hey, it's been 6 years during, the pandemic, snap out of it. Well, it's not that easy. It's not that easy. And so it could be, people may not realize that this long-term effect of COVID has really, really affected a lot of different businesses. And when it becomes your identity of who you are, there's a whole nother crisis going on in your mind about your identity and who you are and your purpose, right? And something I didn't realize as I was going through it, what was about to happen in 2020. So,
Yeah. Now, with going back to the title, the ADHD wasn't my hurdle. It was my biggest advantage. So I think a lot of people have ADHD. I feel like I actually have it, which I didn't realize that until a few years ago. I learn
mm.
differently. I look at things differently. I mean, is that something that just all of a sudden came into aspect, for you, or was it something that you already knew that you had?
Yeah, I talk about it in my first book that I wrote, Camera Focus, and I wrote it in 2018, 2019, just before the pandemic. And at the time, I had quite a career. I started off with National Geographic as an event photographer, to TV Guide, Sports Illustrated, Microsoft, and then eventually got to the White House with President Obama as an event photographer. That's when things kind of, chaos was crazy, right? Very creative individual. Like if you're creative, you're a photographer, you're in that arts sort of thing. Most likely you have ADHD. And that's why you do what you do. And this is why I had this camera and I could be so camera focused that it got me to the White House, which is the name of the book, Camera Focused, right? I was so focused that I had a camera. I could do anything. So as I grew a business, I no longer became the photographer anymore, right? The typical story of, you build a business, you want to make blueberry muffins and you're the best blueberry muffin maker. And all your friends tell you, you should be a cook. You should open up a blueberry muffin place. Well, guess what? When you blow it up, it becomes big. you're no longer making the blueberry muffins, right?
Yeah.
And I was no longer the photographer anymore, right? I was running a business, I was a leader, and I had to hire photographers. We've hired photographers all around the country. And because I was one and now become CEO of a business, I understood people more because it was me. I was talking to myself 5 years ago. That was me, right? Or maybe I could see myself as I talked to these different people that want a photography career, that want to grow a business, and I would hire them for different events, right? Well, to grow a company really good, you need to be a good leader, and you gotta hire the right people, right? And I knew that most people that I talked to had ADHD. And I knew what they were thinking. I knew they had, we could have a conversation with, 100 different subjects in a matter of 30 minutes. I'd understand every single one of them. And I think that changed people's perspective when I was interviewing, right? I wasn't so analytical and detailed. I wanted somebody creative. I wanted that person. And that's the whole point of understanding you have ADHD or not. It's I understood what was happening. I knew it was my superpower. And that's what helped me grow a substantial size photography business because of it. Now, Al, you're probably going to ask me, well, where's the crisis kick in?
Yeah.
Well, things are going great. Launched a book, doing a book tour. The business is growing. We're doing, $3, $4 million in signed deals and contracts and business. This is a substantial size business. And when 2020 hit, March 20, 2020, um, I lost one of my biggest clients, over $4.2 million of a
Mm.
long-term contract that I had, right? And all the other, not just that one, but all of them, right? Because we would do event photography. The purpose was large events with a lot of people, right? White House, big events, New England Patriots. Well, they weren't doing that. And not knowingly, it was slowly disappearing. Now, looking back, it was a hard stop, right? Pandemic hit. We're in shutdown mode, but it just never really came back. It never came back. And for me, I was scaled so big and so fast that to lose all the employees, all the contracts, and everything else, to go back and rebuild that, that was my crisis. How
Mm.
do I accept that? I mean, I just explained an amazing story most people would kill for. Wow, this is amazing. National Geographic photography. You went to the White House, you built this business, you built a book. But when I lost all that business, all that didn't matter. I lost everything. And I couldn't see past it.
So
And
you,
it brings, yeah,
oh,
go
I
ahead.
apologize for interrupting. So
No, it's okay.
you couldn't see yourself going back and starting from the beginning again and go because you did it once successfully, right? Because you see that with a lot of people's career. They lose everything. And whether it's through addiction or some other type of crisis or whatever in their life, and they disappear for a bit, but then they come back
Mhm.
and they build something even bigger.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly right. And when I disappeared for about 3 or 4 years after the pandemic, I literally disappeared, like disappeared. Um, and then it was a call that I had with my coach. We talked about having a coach at the beginning of the show. Um, I was talking about how people claim they can help other people. And for photographers, it was like these photographers that were trying to get into the coaching career, and I can help you and I can do this. And perhaps they could, and I'm just making judgment. But for somebody that's already been there as the top 1% of photographers in the world, to overhear these conversations on social media, how people can help somebody. And I'm like, I just didn't agree with them. And I mentioned that to my coach. I'm like, I don't agree with a lot of people on social media and Instagram and what they say. And he goes, well, Scott, why don't you do something about it? I said, that's fair, right? That's fair. So it was from that point forward that I said, let's build this business bigger, but a whole different way, right? Let's take my knowledge and take knowledge to make the transformation to help other people, right? Because a coach isn't about information. We can gather information from AI and Google all day long, every day, including Sunday, right? Every day you can get information. The transformation comes from people that have already been there before and done it. That's where the real power is that can help other people.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the whole purposes of actually wanting to become a coach because, for my own self, because
Oh,
I had a lot of people reach out to me and say, "Hey, why don't you look at being a coach? You're doing your podcast and you love helping people and you're working in the recovery community, and doing different events and things like that." And it was something that just didn't resonate with me. I
mm,
just did not have that feeling inside, even though I wanted to help people. And it wasn't until, of course, Emergo, when they came in, because they actually reached out to me as well and wanted to be on the show. And we just became
okay.
instant friends.
Mm,
And I love their whole approach about the brain first. And that's their approach. The brain first approach is
mm,
what they say. And when I took their training, they literally helped me start opening up my mind for myself, right? It's not like a therapist where they kind of lead you or tip you in the direction they think
mm.
you should go. I was actually figuring out my own issues. They were just asking the right questions. And as soon as that hit, I'm like, that's exactly what I want to do
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
there to make a difference.
Seems like we had the same same sort of experience, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, And but that goes with information transformation. People that have done it before, it's only bragging rights till after you've done it, in my opinion. Um, and I just believe the next form of what I call influencers, as we know them. Early on, 10, 20 years ago, you had very young influencers that really blew up on social media, right?
Hmm.
And today, those people are maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. I'm happy to be wrong, but they're just repeating a lot of information that's out there, right? Versus today, I believe the legacy sort of individual, people that have done that before, maybe they have a little bit of gray hair, white hair on the top, sound familiar? That have a better story to share that people can learn because nobody can Google, nobody can AI your story out. Neither they can AI my story that can absolutely undisputable help somebody else.
Yeah,
And that's our unique thing that nobody can find that anywhere else. So if we have a connection, we can help someone and change somebody's life. It's because of our story.
absolutely. And I love that you put it that way, Scott. I mean, seriously, because our voices are so powerful. So powerful. And that's one thing that I fell in love with the recovery community and also doing this show. I've heard so many stories, so flipping many. I think you're like the 396 show or something.
Yeah, that's good
And
to you. That's awesome.
thank you. And some of the stories that I've heard, I mean, it's like almost superheroes, right? I mean, I've
Mm,
interviewed people who have lived on the street, ate out of dumpsters, sold their body for money so they could get whatever it was that
mm,
they're looking for. And then you see who they are today, and you see how much they're thriving, and you see that they go out to the community as well and share their story and how many people it helps. And we've
yeah.
said on the show many, many times, all it takes is one person, right?
Mm,
If there's one person that watches this show, and they
mission accomplished.
something you say exactly mission
Yeah.
accomplished because
Mm,
the ripple effect goes so much further than what either you and I ever
mm,
see.
yeah. 100%. 100%. And that became my vision to and it kind of I want to be very unique and very to the point, right? But being a photographer, any small business, it's having a business. I was a photographer, it happened to be the camera, but ultimately it's about helping businesses. And what's the biggest problem that businesses have? Making money and being profitable.
Hmm.
Because without the money, without their profits, you don't have a business. Then now you have problems with, your wife, your spouse, money problems because money's not coming in, family problems, other issues, and it spirals down. And what it absolutely comes down to is if you're going to have a business, how can you be profitable to make money that you can have a business to last a lifetime? Because ultimately, that's what we need to do.
Yeah, and a business that helps other people, right? And looking at it that way, because you just said that, right? It's really about the business, and I'm guessing that you're meaning their business by helping them, right? But it's also helping you. It's a win-win situation for both.
Yeah, hey, listen, just like you went to a surgeon, surgeon doing heart surgery, I don't know what he makes. He makes $1 million a year, 2 million. Who cares? It doesn't matter, right? But he dedicated his life to be the best surgeon he could to do heart surgery. And people need to step up and do that education training so he can save lives. Well, I'm just being the surgeon. And how I do that to make a life or a living, great. It doesn't matter. the point is I only want to work with somebody that's all in, that's done it before, that understands it, just like the heart surgeon.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. I love how you put that. That's pretty cool. So, I mean, let our listeners know a little bit more by what you're meaning by what you're doing right now.
Yeah. So after building a substantial business and losing it all and going through a financial crisis, I realized that, like, you should probably assume that you lose money, you don't have a job, you're not working, you go from top top notch to losing everything. It affects a lot of different things. You start drinking, you start doing stupid stuff. You're in a depression. It's a mental condition that you have to get out of, right? You don't realize it when you're in it. And I realized that how I can help people is to make sure if they have a business and they want to stay in that business, is that we help them stay profitable, right? And there's a lot of photographers, creators, small business owners, doesn't matter, that need help building the fundamentals of the business to start making profits in their business. Okay. And I believe, because this is how it got me here today after I went through this big crisis in my own life, is, and it was my life, it's my crisis. Everybody has a different crisis, right? But small incremental changes, 1%, 2% on each item that you work on in anything in your life, right? But I'm very focused on this business concept. But if I can help you with 1%, 2% of key elements in your business, and we focus on 12 different things, well, that's a lot. That's a lot of increase in your business fast, right? Because we made small little changes. Small little changes add up like compound interest, right?
Mhm.
Um, it's because it was overwhelming to me. It's like, I'll never get there. Why even bother? Right? Why bother? It's a number I can't get to. Well, yeah, you can. I just need to break it down. And we got to do small 1%, 2% changes in your business to help you be profitable. Right.
Mhm.
So, I mean, a good example of that is, you're, it really goes down to really simple things. Like, this first thing I always tell people is like, they go to a networking meeting and they say, what do you do? Right? Say, what do you do? And they'll start off with, well, it's kind of complicated. See, my brother was in this business with my dad, and da, 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 da. I'm like, stop. Okay, you've already lost them. When you start off with, it's kind of complicated, there's a problem, and this is why you're probably not getting any referrals when you go to the networking meeting, right? So be really clear on your one liner. What's your elevator pitch? That's the first thing I start with, right? Because it's coming right out of the gate. If you're going to speak to people, you're going to a network event, you go to a BNI events, be really clear what you do. We get caught up into it. Stories we tell ourselves, right? For me, I help small businesses around the world focus on small incremental changes in their business to make sure they're profitable, to keep the business for a lifetime. Pretty right to the point.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're still curious on what it is that you do, right? You haven't really told them what you do. You just kind of let them just a little bit.
Yeah, I call that the salt effect.
Yeah.
Not that we both drink anymore, but it's, you go to the bar and you sit down, you have the pretzels and the salty chips they throw down on the table there. And what do you think they're doing that for? They want you to have the salty chips and the pretzels so you have more to drink, right? So
Yeah.
this is the salt effect. I just want to put down a little bit so you want to drink the Kool-Aid more over here, right? So it's part of the mission here, right?
One thing I love about this title too is to kind of shift and go back to that is if I remember right, I read something, I don't remember where I read it, but it said during the Great Depression, more millionaires were made than ever before.
Yeah,
And I feel the same thing happened with the pandemic in 2020.
agree.
People started losing their jobs. A lot of
Yeah.
things was happening. A lot of people started inventing new ways to make a
The
living.
re Al, the reset switch was hit.
Yeah.
People that were in line to do different things, that there was so many people ahead of them, the reset switch got hit, and there
Mhm.
was a great opportunity there.
Yeah. And the reason why I brought that up is because again, we think a lot of our darkest moments are exactly that. They're the worst thing that can ever happen to us in our life. I have really changed my whole mindset around that just because of doing the show as long as I've been doing, a lot of the people that I've met, also with my training, that I've realized when people who battle with depression or anxiety or ADHD or whatever it may be, those are actually blessings for us. That's how I look at it. They're blessings for us because when we can really sit down and start really sitting within ourselves, we start realizing there's some strengths there that we didn't even know that we had before. But it's about changing that whole mindset. And it sounds like
Yeah.
that's exactly what's happened with you.
Yeah. I mean, you could either be a pessimist or an optimist, right? You pick which one you want to be. And that sh shift right there alone will change. And a lot of people you talk to, they're pessimists, right? Or an optimist, I'll get through this and it's gonna be bigger and better when I get through it on the other side. I'm a very optimist, right?
Yeah,
Um, versus the pessimist. Ah, you're so deep into it. I don't even know why you bother. Well, I don't need that person in my life, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Al, going back to more millionaires were built in the middle of a crisis. That was in the book Psychology of Money. And it was a great book, and it talks about the Great Depression and how people lost money. The stock market dropped. There was a lot of millionaires that lost money. And a lot of people committed suicide at that time because of those losses. But yet other people became millionaires of new opportunities. In history, if you really again, psychology of money, and you dig into that one subject matter and what's happening today, it's exactly what happened. Exactly what happened. And I could have went down that bad road myself. But I was more curious to figure out how am I going to solve this versus giving up, right? I was an optimist. I wasn't a pessimist, right?
Yeah.
And because of that shift, it got me to read the book, The Psychology of Money, to understand what was really going on. And it is the psychology of money, and that's money means profit. Money means profit in the business to make sure that you stay alive, right? Physically and emotionally, right? Business has to stay alive. And how do you find that profit? Well, it goes down to communication, what you do, being being an optimist of what you do and helping other people, whatever the sale is, what you're doing, right? But when you're down and you're out and you can't think, it's a trickle effect and it's a spiral effect that goes down and down and down.
Yeah.
And the only way, for me, it was that small 1-2% changes to get you back up.
I love that. I was just talking with a friend of mine yesterday, and we both started talking about the little teeny baby steps. Right?
Mm,
It doesn't matter how big that step is, as long as you even shuffle, even if you shuffle an inch forward, you're still going forward and not
yeah.
backwards. And it does, right? It adds up and makes time. It's like I have a big plastic container that I throw my change in, right? I have separate for pennies and
Yeah, there you go.
dimes and quarters go in another one. And it's amazing that a container like this big, how much money is in it, but it's those
Yeah.
just depositing just a little at a time, how much it builds up. And I feel like what we're talking about, it's that same type of effect.
Compound of interest. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Hmm.
funny you mention that. We didn't even talk about this, but on my website called businessfocusmethod.com, businessfocusmethod.com, I have a video right now on that website that talks about exactly what you just said. And it's about compound interest, that by adding a penny every day, it can grow to $5 million. And it's a short 7-minute video that'll explain how you can do that, right? All from one penny a day.
Wow.
So it's a really great video, really good video. So
I'll have
check,
to
yeah.
check, I'll have to check it out for
Yeah,
sure.
we'll put that in the show notes for sure. This is a good example of putting something in the show notes.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, with what you just shared, I remember when I was told I was probably going to lose my leg. That was a dark time for me. Someone who's been really active, and I go to the gym and I'm
Mm,
hiking and just really active, and I call our Wasatch Mountains that are so beautiful, I call them my church because I go hiking on Sundays and I'm like, that's the church God built, right? That's not a church man
yeah.
built, it's a church God built. And I remember all the negative stuff that went through my head.
No,
I'm like, gosh, I'm not ever going to be able to drive my truck again. I'm not going to kick the soccer ball with my grandkids again. I'm not ever going to be able to go hike again. And all this negativeness just started just imploding.
you're being a pessimist.
Right, right. And I just remember my daughter, she was with me and she come over and was holding my hand and she's like, Dad, are you okay? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just trying to process all this, right?
Yeah.
After I sat in my emotions for a little while and playing the victim and feeling sorry for myself, something switched in me. And again, I have to credit it to my higher power as well as my coaches and the training that they gave me. I'm like, you know what? I just got handed a blank piece of paper and a pen, and I can write this chapter however I want to write it.
Hmm.
I'm going to write it in the most positive way I can possibly think of. And I
Hmm.
remember before I got wheeled in, I was talking to my other daughter, and I says, I just have a feeling blessings are going to come out of this.
Hmm.
And I actually told a friend that, and she was like, how do you figure blessings are going to come out of losing your leg? I'm like, I don't know. I just have a feeling that blessings are going to come out of it. And it really has. I mean, after I got out of rehab, I moved in with my daughter for about 2.5 months, and I got to be in the house with my grandkids, and I
Hmm.
got to see how they live their life. And my daughter was remodeling her kitchen, and I got to where I could get upstairs and got out in the garage, and she's taking measurements, and I'm out there cutting the baseboards and doing angles and all this other fun stuff. And that was time I got to spend with my daughters that I would have never ever had before because I
Yeah.
was
Right.
too busy doing my everyday life, right?
Hmm.
And so many other blessings have come out of it. And
Hmm.
I hope that when I do my public speaking that I can relay that message to other people. Just let them know, hey, you may think you're in the dark right now, but there are blessings waiting on the other side. You just got to find that light
Yeah.
and change your whole mindset. And again, once you do, that 1% or that 2%, little at a time will get you there.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Love it.
So what are you doing with your life right now? Are you you're still running this business then? You're still helping people get to that 1% and 2% a little at a time. And do you do like any public speaking as well?
I do occasionally, if I don't go out and search for it, I do occasionally. Most of the time, I'm on one or two podcasts a week that people reach out to me from people all around the world. Um, Unfortunately, sometimes I can't get back to them right away. Um, Sometimes I do, but this was my mission. I was going to do this for a year, and it takes work and effort and a plan. It just doesn't happen overnight. But this is part of my plan, so that when I actually reach out to more speaking engagements, first thing I'd ask you is, got a reel? Who'd you speak to? How do you sound? What do you talk about? And that always bothered me. I didn't have it, right? And so now I have over 100 podcasts that I've been on to speaking to a lot of different people, a lot of different subjects. And sure, what would you like to hear about? What subject? Which conversation? And it makes it a lot easier. But that's my plan. That's my strategy. It wasn't just a reaction of like, hey, I'm going to go into this business, right? It's a well thought out plan and small incremental changes about doing a podcast once or twice a week. And I'll get to 100 podcasts. It's pretty substantial when I speak to somebody. I've been over 100 podcasts, interviewed by over 100 people, and yeah, like to talk to more people if you like, right?
Yeah.
Um, so it's part of the grand plan of building this business.
I like that plan. That's probably something I need to do because I have been guests on other podcasts myself, but I think it would be awesome to be at least on one podcast a week, being a guest on someone else's.
Um, I think you're already there, Al.
Yeah.
This is your 350th podcast. You beat me three times over, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When I hit 100, I was just like in shock. My producer's like, you don't realize how big of a step this really is, and I
Yeah.
didn't. I didn't understand it. Now here I am, what, 5 shows away? Let me see. Yeah, you're 396, so I'm 4 shows away from hitting 400, and I'm
Yeah.
just like in awe.
Yeah. And see what you just said there, what you just did there. We normalized our lives,
Hmm.
right? You've done, you're hitting 400 episodes of a podcast where most people don't accomplish five. They stop, they quit. I'm done. They don't see the vision. There's no plan.
Yeah,
And that you've accomplished it to hit 400. I mean, you're probably the top 1 or 2% of people that have actually launched and committed to doing this podcast and being consistent about it. That's the name of the game with anything. Are you consistent with what you're doing?
yeah, and you learn along the way, right? We just get better as we go.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of that's an ADHD thing, in my opinion, right? Because it's like we don't overanalyze things. We just go out and do it.
Yeah.
And wow, look at Alan Scott. They're being successful, the next career, whatever they're doing, because we didn't overthink it. We weren't being a pessimist. We were being an optimist, right? And we're like, just launch. And we worry about what other people are going to think, what they're going to say, what they're going to stop the noise, just launch. Um, and I see that so often. And so when I see that, how I can help people, so many photographers I talk to, I have no business. I need more business. Okay, great. Sure. How many calls have you made? Have you made any sales calls? What? Oh, who? A sales call. Have you called anybody? Nope. Okay. They're not going to find you.
Yeah.
We have to stop making some sales calls. And honestly, a lot of the clients over the years, they've actually stopped me and said, Scott, I gotta be honest with you. I just can't make a sales call. I can't do it. And I'm just, hey, glad you told me. Let's find a different way to do this, right? Let's find a different way. So if you're struggling making those sales calls because you don't feel comfortable with it, um, let's find a different way. But the way the world works is um, that to have a business, you need to communicate what you do to somebody else so they can buy it. Simple as that. But you have to be speaking to the right people. You need to be speaking to the check writers, right? So many people, just for photographers, for instance, they're on Instagram and they're talking to the Instagram people about how they do the lights and this and the camera. Well, I'm here to tell you that if somebody wants to hire you, it doesn't matter what camera you have, what lighting, and whatever you're doing. You're actually speaking to other photographers, which are not the check writers.
Mm.
Speak to your check writers. Speak to the check writers that people want to hire you, right? Why? Right? Why do they want to hire me? Why do they want to hire you? Why? Well, if they're going to hire me. Listen, I work with some of the top 1% of high corporate clients in the world. And if I work with you, it's undisputable. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
I, I didn't mention price. I didn't mention the details. I didn't mention my hourly rate, right? None of that. None of that matters. Um, but try to get people to sell the destination. Sell the destination. But you have to sell. You have to tell people that. They're not going to know otherwise.
Yeah, correct. I think also part of our ADHD is we're willing to try different ways, right? We just don't give up if something doesn't work. We actually search for different ways. Again, we don't overthink it. We just come up with this other idea and it's like, well, let's try that. My brother has a concrete business and I manage his concrete business. And when we first started it about 15 years ago, I was talking to him into spending some money here and there about doing some marketing and everything that we threw money out to didn't work. And it was after about the second or third time we sat down and we talked, and it's like, I think we need to do a different approach. And because the stuff was working for other companies, it just didn't work for what we did. And we just took a whole different approach. And here we are, what, in our 15th year or something like that, 14th or 15th year. And it's just taken off. And I think that's what's also cool about it is not giving up, just constantly trying different ways, because it doesn't mean that we failed, right? It just means that we've got to come up with something different that works for us. And sometimes it takes
Mhm.
walking in the mud quite a few times and getting
Mhm.
stuck in it here and there before we finally start realizing. But the whole thing is not giving up.
Yeah, never give up, right? Never give up.
Yeah.
Yeah, plan B is plan A.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I'm gonna have to use that.
Uh,
Plan B is plan
yeah,
A. Yeah.
plan B is plan A.
Yeah. So gosh, what was I had another question for you and I just went mind blank here. The heck was it? I don't know. Start talking, Scott. It'll come to me.
Yeah. Well, that's because we have such great conversations, and it's like,
Yes.
where do we
Yeah.
go with it, right?
Yeah.
So, selling, we talk about selling, right? And people don't feel comfortable with selling, right? And the question is why don't they feel comfortable with selling? Is because they feel like they're selling something. Nobody wants to be sold to. Do you want to be sold to? Do you go to a networking event expecting 10 other people to start selling you something? Do you think you're going to buy it from them? No, you didn't. That wasn't your mission. That wasn't the goal of going to the networking meeting to buy the 10 other people's things that they're selling. So don't sell to those people, right? Nobody wants to be sold to. But if you can have a conversation with somebody and you can solve their problem, that's a different, a whole different approach. What problem can you solve?
Yeah,
What
exactly.
problem can you solve?
Networking is so powerful. I mean, it really has. I've been networking for probably about 14 years, and it's extremely powerful. And I learned very quick not to throw up on people, because basically that's what I call it, right? People, you just mentioned it a little
Yeah,
bit earlier.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Totally.
People are, this is what I do, and I'm the best, and I can do this, and I can do this. Here's my card, call me. And
Mm,
I used to work for the West Jordan Chamber of Commerce. West Jordan is about the third largest city here in the Salt Lake City Valley. It's where I grew up. I remember it back when it was just all farmland, and now it's all the farmland is gone. But yeah, I just learned when I was working for them, I'd go visit a lot of businesses. I was the director of business relations, and something I learned very, very quickly, it was all about building relationships. I didn't go in there and actually sell a membership, try to get
yeah.
them to in the chamber or anything. I'd sit down and
Those
say,
aren't the
hey,
check writers,
those aren't the check
right?
writers, right?
Those
Yeah, it's
aren't the
like,
check
hey,
writers.
where is your business struggling? And it's like, okay, well, this event would be good for you, or this event would be good for you, or maybe both events would be good for you. Maybe all of them would be good for you. But it was all about building the relationships. And I brought in a lot of members just by using that, saying, if you want to be in front of more people so people know who you are, because I don't want to do business with somebody that I don't know. I've just learned
Mm,
that I just get very uncomfortable. I want to know somebody. I want to know their integrity. I want to know if they do good business. I want to know, that they take care of their people. And when you build those relationships, that's when
mm.
everything starts happening.
Yeah. I mean, you talk to the check writers, right? Um, it's kind of like why I do these podcasts. I want people to get to know me, right? If you were going to want to work with me and there's a lot of noise out there, that's fine. But happen to trip on Al's podcast and he's trying to run a business and not make any profit.
Yeah.
And you want to know these little secrets that maybe Scott can help me with. Great. Maybe that one person will call me. Awesome. See if I can help them. Maybe, because you know what? A good coach like that, they're not just saving the business, they're saving lives,
Yeah.
saving lives. Because not having a successful business, going broke, as we just talked about, psychology of money, people are committing suicide, the depression, and the effects of other people's lives and families just because they can't get clear-minded to run a business to be profitable.
Do you feel like a lot of that is also the outside noise that
A
comes in?
thousand percent. It hasn't it's never been more noise in the world than today, right? Here's a good example. Somebody told me this. So we have AI. We have AI going on. Like, oh, that's gonna, we're gonna be able to do more work faster, and absolutely. You get more information, absolutely. But let me ask you this, Al. With all the AI tools out there, are you working any less? Nope,
Mm-mm.
nope, neither am I. I'm just using AI as gasoline to get more content, more information to stay current with everybody else. It's not, oh, you'll use AI, I'll save you time. It'll eliminate other people from doing things. And no, you're just going to do it to stay ahead, to be part of the, part of the, part of the worldly transformation of technology that's changing. If you stuck back in the film days as a photographer, wondering why you're not making any money, well, you had to change, right? If you're still doing faxes and sending faxes out, you're probably struggling right now, right? You have to change. Technology changed, and it's just moving rapidly, obviously, right? But it we've transformed. We're not no longer sending fax machines. I don't have a fax machine in my office. Do you, Al?
No, I do not.
No. Technology changed. And so we have to change with it in order to grow our businesses. And today it's AI. And that's okay. It's transformation. Things don't die. Things just transform into something else. And that's what we're experiencing. Nothing's dying, nothing's going away, right? It's transforming into something else.
Yeah. Like ourselves.
Yeah, we're doing the same thing. And AI is giving us probably the information how to make this podcast better, to do the brief, to do the note. It now it becomes we normalize it, just like doing 400 podcasts. It seems like oh, I'm just doing 400 podcasts. Wow, it's not just 400 podcasts. It's amazing, right? We normalize it because it becomes our normal day of life, right? And
Yeah.
AI is doing the same thing with us now. That some of the things we do is it's becoming normalized, not knowingly. Um, and that's technology and transformation as we start to learn the internet or start learning how to do emails when the emails were coming out in the 90s, right? Late 80s, probably 90s. But we learned and we went forward. You know, there was a time when we never want to put our credit card online on the internet. Oh my God, my data will get stolen. Well, it's still being stolen. It was stolen back then before the internet, and it's still being stolen, but it has nothing to do. I mean, if you didn't put your credit card online, PayPal wouldn't exist. So many businesses wouldn't exist. If everybody said, I'm not going to put my credit card online because of security issues, it had nothing to do with it.
Yeah,
It was a
absolutely.
growth and transformation. Growth and transformation um, makes all the difference.
The growth and transformation. Speaking of that, before the pandemic hit, did you see yourself doing what you're doing right now?
It's interesting you asked this question because I took a lot of time to think about it. Um, I was in a coaching program with Dan Sullivan, one of the top high performing coaches for businesses. And one of the very first workshops we did was to talk about, was to write down what your life's going to be 1 year from today, 5 years from today, and 25 years from today. And and there's other spins off that other people have done this, but for me, it transformed the way I was thinking. And it was to write down as if it already happened. Okay. So it's about 10 years ago I did this. And so I had a 1 year, 5 year, 10 year, or 25-year plan that I wrote it as if I already accomplished it. Well, my 25-year plan, which is another 15 years in the future for me, technically, from the time I did that, right? But I go back to my notes and I kept all my journals. I did most of the things on that list 10 years ago that I'd said I was going to accomplish in 25 years from now. And
Hmm.
one of them was to write 3 books and publish 3 books. I did that, right? I also said at that time, 25 years later, I would be a consultant, a guy with a little bit of white hair, probably. I said gray, probably white hair, and that I was going to be a consultant to help other businesses grow. Well, I'm doing it 15 years earlier, exactly what I was going to do. Call it coaching at the time, 10 years ago. It's kind of a used word a little bit, right? I'm more of an advisor to help businesses grow, but it's a consultant. You're a consultant. And exactly what I said I was going to do. And I'm ahead of myself. So when I start to realize that, those notes and my 3 years of disappearing, I realized that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, that is really cool. You said 1, 5, and 25?
Yeah, 25-year plan. Yeah. Yeah. One,
Wow.
5, 10, and 25-year plan.
1, 5,
But
10.
either way, whatever works for you, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
idea is most people don't think 25-year plan. What are you, 25, what are you talking about? Right. Some people can get through the week. Like, I don't know what I'm doing after Friday. Right. Well, maybe so, but let's change that. Because it changes how we do things. If you're that embedded into it, all in on your 25-year plan, like all in, psychologically, why did I write those 3 books and publish it earlier? Because the goal was clearly in my mind mentally that I was
Mhm.
going to do that. End up doing it sooner than 25 years. Mission accomplished. But I could have said yes to other things, maybe a different job at the time. Well, if I did that, I wouldn't have the knowledge to write the books that I wrote. Who knows? But I made a clear decision of what I said yes to and what I said no to, because it didn't really align up with my 25-year plan.
Hmm. Now oh, go ahead.
No, no, no. All good.
So you had one of your books that you showed me before we started recording. You want to show our listeners what that book is?
Yeah, so it's called Camera Focus.
Okay.
Um, you know, First thing people ask me. as being a former National Geographic and White House photographer. I say, wow, it must be amazing photographs in that book. Al, there's not one photograph in the book.
Okay.
Just to be clear, there's not one photograph in the book. Basically, when I wrote the book, 2018, 2019, again, didn't expect to do what I'm doing now, this soon in my life, but it was a metaphor around the camera to help people focus and help them overcome ADHD and to see the bigger picture. No pun intended again, metaphor, to see the bigger picture. But I broke down the camera, different elements, and use a metaphor to each piece of the camera. Now, why'd I do that? Well, if you're a photographer, creator, maybe even other businesses, everybody can relate to photography. Everybody's a photographer today, anyways, right?
We
I,
we
I
all have these.
we all, yeah, we're photographer. Everybody's a photographer, right? So they can relate to the camera. They get excited about it, right? So if you're excited about the conversations and the stories that help you stay focused on this book to read, because I realize most people might not read the book if you have ADHD. Most people never finish a book, right? But if I can tell the story like I already know their problem, I'm the hero. Not that I'm the hero in the book, I'm the hero to them because of the information, right? Because they're like, wow, how does he know that? That sounds like me. I hear it all the time. People reach out to me. It happened last week. New client. I said, Brian, I think you'll like my book. He's in another business. He's a mechanic, not in photography at all, but he's focused on his business, right? And so I'm helping him grow profit in his business. And I said, I think you like my book. It's called Camera Focus. Didn't say anything. Just gave him the book. And I said, one day I'll quiz you in the book on one of our calls. So just want to let you know. And he laughed it off. Well, an hour later, after he left me, he said, send me a text. He goes, I'm 3 pages in your book. How did you know this is me? You're speaking directly to me. This is amazing. Because most likely he has ADHD and he was all over the place. And he didn't understand why he couldn't focus on the business and the profits and his money. He was always focused on he knew engines. He was like a doctor with engines, right? He knew it, but he lacked and he knew it too. He said it, but he wasn't focused on the business side. It didn't get him excited because for the past decade, it was all about learning the engines and all the technology of it. Beyond brilliant and as far as fixing diesel and equipment, brilliant, brilliant mind. The business side, he just wasn't excited about it. Now he is.
Wow. I love that.
Yeah.
You know, gosh, again, where was I going to go? What's going on with me today? It's one of my guests when I had my studio came in and said something that Steve Jobs said that when we connect the dots backwards of our life, we'll see exactly where we're supposed to be this very moment.
Oh,
And I found that very fascinating. And I found myself after I left the studio and going home, I really started thinking about it. And I thought about it for a long while. And I started really going backwards. And not knowing it at the time, I was being groomed the entire time to get me to where I'm at right now. And something that you said about this mechanic resonating 3 pages in with your book.
mm,
So many of us, out of 7 billion people or 8 billion people on this planet, we think we're the only ones that's going through what we're going through.
exactly.
You said something at the beginning of the show, too, about how powerful our stories are
Mm-hmm.
because people do resonate because they're going through it as well, right? We're not the only ones. And for a long time, I thought I was the only one going through all the crap I was going through.
Yeah.
Until finally a friend got me to open up. And once I started opening up, I had people pulling me off to the side at networking groups going, hey, can I talk to you in private? And
Yep.
saying, hey, I don't know if you knew this, but I was a heroin addict for 6 years. And I'm like, what? I've known you for 8 years. I didn't know that, but it gives permission for other people to open up and start speaking. And I really do feel that the more of us that actually start using our voices, start writing books, doing podcasts, doing speaking events, it
Yeah.
starts helping so many other people. And again, it's going backwards in your life to see where you're at. It's those little
Oh,
teeny steps that a lot of times the majority of us don't even realize that we're making, but we are.
yeah. We don't realize it. And going back to exactly what I was saying is that our stories are unique. There are unique stories that can help somebody else,
Mhm.
and you can't AI it, you can't Google it, right? And the next influencer of the world, it's going to be what I call the legacy people.
Yeah.
Their legacy, their knowledge is worth more than information that anybody can get anywhere, right? And that's something that it's because information is where it's overdone. It's being commoditized, right? Information's commoditized. Um, but learning lessons and how to get through the transformation to get you from here to there is where people want help with, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a pretty small bubble, and there's only a handful of people that are inside my bubble. The other
Mhm.
people are just on the outside, right? Not saying that
Mhm.
they're any different than the ones that are in the inside. It's just that they're just on the outside. And probably about a half a dozen, if not a little more, we've been talking about how the world's changed and how
Mhm.
society is changing in so many different ways. And last year was like the year of the snake, and we've had this big shed of
Mhm.
our skin. And we have all felt like 2025 is such a big change,
Mhm.
such a big change, and how so many of us who go out and do podcasts or speaking events or write books, how we feel that we're being pushed by something
Mhm.
greater than us
Yeah, I agree.
to continue to move forward. Not saying that we're on a pedestal above anybody else, because we're
Mhm.
not. It's just that we have this feeling that we're
Unique story.
to
We
make a
have a unique
change.
story that's worth sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's no, I'm gonna lose my thought here for a minute. Um, you talk about sharing your story about people that have gone through difficult times, like you just talked about, and I've had my difficult times in my world. I never talked about it during those 3 or 4 years I disappeared. And it was only after I said, you know what, I got to tell my story. That one thing that my coach told me to do, that one thing was transformational for me, right? Because he knew to tell me, Scott, why don't you do something about it? That was his wisdom that he put in me. And that one thing changed, changed everything for me, right? That got me to say, hey, let me tell my story. Hey, I lost a business. I did over, $20 million in lifetime sales, had an amazing business with 52 people around the country. And I lost my pandemic hit and I lost a $4.2 million contract. And I didn't know how to deal with it. And I disappeared and I got depressed and walked away from everything. Well, nobody knew that, right?
Yeah.
And all the details that go into that, right? That long story of 3, 4 years of losing everything spoils, what do I do next? And how do I come out of it? And who am I? And how can I help? And what's my one line, right? One liner that I always knew in my form of business, right? Of who I did and who I helped. I didn't have that. I lost my identity. I didn't know what I was doing till I started to tell my story.
Yeah. And I think so many of us out there have lost our identity just because of everything that's going on. And
Yeah.
hopefully podcasts like this and other podcasts and different things will help people open up their eyes a little bit more and see that there's so much into it. I interviewed a gal quite a few years ago who worked in the adult industry.
Mhm.
And when I was working with her, I don't know, it was probably the third or fourth session. And she finally figured it out. And she's like, I just want to be seen as who I am today, not who I was in my past.
Hmm.
And she just broke down in tears.
Hmm.
And that even was hard for me to watch, right? I mean, it was a happy thing, but just being able to see someone's mind open up. And again, we stay stuck. We allow ourselves to stay stuck so much instead of really sitting with our emotions. And my buddy and I share this on the show a lot about looking at the message in the mirror. There's always a message,
It sounds like a Michael Jackson song, right?
right? It does, right? Yeah, the man
I
in
think he
the
has one message,
mirror.
right?
Yeah, and just learning the lesson behind it. My buddy Cap and I, when we worked together, we used to say that every day at work. Would get to work and would say, "Hey, what was your message in the mirror yesterday?"
Yeah.
And it would help us really open up. It allowed us. and gave each other permission to really open up and share what was going on in our life instead of holding everything in, because that is one of the worst things that we can do when we sit and hold all these emotions in. It's like that book, The Body Keeps the Score, right? We may not be thinking about it, but our body's knowing it's happening, and it just eats us up inside and it doesn't get us anywhere. But when we learn how to sit with those emotions and look at the message in the mirror, that's when the blessings start happening. And that's,
Yeah.
again, like you've said many times, that's that 1% move forward.
Mhm. Yeah. And by the way, Michael Jackson was right in that song, right?
He was
He was
absolutely.
right.
Yeah.
And I actually talk about that in my book, Camera Focus, on the day I was met Michael Jackson as a photographer, taking pictures of Michael Jackson, and the stories that I share with that experience that I had. Is quite interesting to say the least.
I bet. Yeah. Well, we've hit just coming up on the hour. Scott, it's been really an absolute pleasure to sit down with you today and have this conversation. What you've shared is definitely something very important, and I hope the listeners understand where you're coming from with it, because there's so much for us to learn, especially within ourselves. And once we start learning more about who we are as individuals, we can actually start helping more individuals. I was a guest on a show at the beginning of the year, and the host asked me what brings me joy. And I'm like, that's a good question. I've never been asked that question before. And then I realized I have been asked that question before. And my answer has always been, oh, my grandkids, going hiking, playing golf. It's just going out and doing things. And I couldn't get those words out of my mouth.
Mm.
And I sat, I don't know how long, it was a pause for a bit. And I said, really, for the first time, I can honestly say I'm in love with who I am as a person today.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
And it's taken me 60 something years to get to that point. But I tell you what, it is such a great feeling, such a great feeling. And I'm able to share more of that love once we get to that point, right?
Yeah.
So we can't give something away that we don't have ourselves. We have to have it
All right.
ourselves.
Well said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what you don't know,
Hmm.
you know? So
Yeah.
excellent. Excellent.
What do you have any powerful advice you could give our listeners as we close here? You got something on your mind?
Helpful advice. Yeah. So, you've, life, business, life and business, right? And I talk about business, small 1% to find profits in your business so that you can build the business to last a lifetime. Well, that's what I tell people. But also it goes to your personal life too. So not just the 1%, 2% in profits to build your business, but 1 or 2% changes in your life as well, right? It's the same compounded interest, right? Making meeting people, you and I made a good friend. Maybe it was that 1% having today, having that call, the knowledge we shared personally, we just gathered a little bit more information to help each other out. And so when I talk about profits, you can switch that around and say life, right? So what's the 1, 2% increase in your business today, in your life rather, today that you can do that can add up?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's just even like if you're, battling with depression, even if it's just getting out of bed one day and sitting on the
that's
couch,
a win. That's a
a
win.
win, right?
And another talking about my book, one of my books is about, writing down your 3 wins of the day. It's been out. Some other people maybe talked about it. I just bring it forward and remind people what helped me. It was writing my 3 wins of the day. And some days, Al, I look really, I had to really look to find those 3 wins. And sometimes it was just a good cup of coffee. It was a win. Didn't have to be big, but it was a win.
I'm so glad that you said that, Scott, because I think so many of us are looking for the big stuff, right? We're not noticing the small stuff.
All
And
1%, one,
that
two.
is what's important. It's not really the big one. I feel like it's those little teeny baby wins that get us to where we want to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll end on this, being a coach, being a good mentor and helping other people, it's changing lives. And as I get deeper and deeper into this, I had one client, he's a very difficult place, that sort of spot he was at. And he had to call me at 1 in the morning, didn't know who to talk to. And we had a good conversation for that hour. It was very delicate in my conversation, I think, really clearly. But the one thing that changed his mind was I told him, I said, what was your 3 wins for today? Completely interrupted his thought process. And he stopped thinking. And he sent me a text afterwards. And he listed like 9 different wins for the day. Just earlier before he took that call, he was thinking about ending everything, right?
Wow.
But by the time we had our conversation, he had like 9 wins of the day. I didn't tell him to do anything or do this or do that. I just asked him the right questions to say, what's your 3 wins of the day? He's the one that came up with 9 that changed his whole thought process. Like, wow, actually, okay. He came up with it. I didn't have to, I'm not going to tell anybody what to do, how to do it. But a good coach can lead people to think differently, right?
Yeah. Doing that brain first approach.
Yeah, right. I mean, again, I do it naturally, just because of who I am. And I've helped so many people in my business to help grow my business. It was about me. It was about if I can help these people that work for me, and I call everybody team members, we can grow this business together. But in order to do that, they needed a leadership and they needed a vision. This is what we're going to do, and this is what's going to happen. That's
Yeah,
what people want more than money.
absolutely.
Money. So there you go.
Most people, when you ask them what they want in life, they say, I just want to be happy.
Yeah, isn't that the whole idea?
Yeah. Yeah. And you know
You know,
what?
so why are we running, oh, we're gonna run Facebook ads and spend all this money on this and this. Well, hold on. You're a solo entrepreneur. How much business do you really want or need? Like 10, most of the time it's 10 or 20 clients they really need. And it's like, why are you running this big national campaign like you're Coca-Cola? You really just need 20 people. How about
Yeah,
we just make 3 sales calls a day? Three, not even sales calls, call 3 people a day. Let's talk after 30 days and see where that goes.
absolutely.
So yeah, there you go.
Okay. Scott, again, thank you so much. Excuse me. I really do appreciate your time and I hope you've had a wonderful 4th of July weekend and yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure to get to know you and sit down and have a conversation with you. It's definitely been a pleasure. So thank you
Yeah,
again.
glad it happened. Great.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Well,
You're great.
yeah, you betcha. So before we end, guys, hey, I just want to say thank you to all our past guests and our future guests. Thank you guys for the time that you guys want to take out of your day to spend it with me. And also, I want to say thank you to Emergo Academy, Dave and Susan Kenny. Again, guys, check them out. EMERGO Academy. Dave and Susan Kenny are awesome. Love you guys. And I also want to say thank you to all our listeners. You guys are the ones that's making this possible. I hope everyone had a safe and happy 4th of July. Again, guys, mark your calendars for October 3rd. We are going to be holding our 6th Healing Utah Success Summit. We've got some great speakers that are coming up. We got Dr. Rob Kelly from Texas that's flying into Salt Lake City to come and be our keynote speaker. We've got Dr. Sarah Hussein from California who's going to be coming up and talking. Plus, we got some locals here from Salt Lake City that's going to be talking. So again, mark your calendars for Saturday, October 3rd. You can go to my Facebook page and you'll see a lot of stuff on that. Would love to see you out there. So I've got a new finish, which I have been so used for 5 years having this old finish, but now since the name has been changed to Through the Storm, I just want you guys to remember storms aren't sent to stop you. They're sent to reveal you. So don't run from the storm, walk through it, because that's where strength is built, hope is restored, and purpose is found. Until next time, keep walking through the storm. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.